Sons of the Children. I mean Children of the Sun. Last time I've cosplayed as a high caliber round straight out of Mista's hand cannon, I was in high school and I was playing Singularity. Now some 15 years has passed and I see this thing. A shooter with zero shooting, where you get to control the bullet instead of the shooter. And my curiosity persuaded me to try the bastard. And so I did. So let's talk about it, shall we? It doesn't take long for the game to show you a good bulk of the weirdness you signed up for. Right from the jump, the very menu is eerie and creepy as all hell. The game bleeds artistism. Made by a single dude over like 4 years, it's a piece of interactive art really. The thing looks like gasoline tastes, in the very best way possible that is. The whole game is a bad trip, tits to taint. Psychedelic palette, a very sane protagonist that'll make Anton Chigurh blush, a soundtrack straight out of Patrick Bateman's collection, and a merry jolly murder scenes of varying degrees of disturbedness. Okay, visuals. Visuals are clear and very deliberate. Your targets are easy to read, the environment is not muddy or obscuring in any way, and same goes for cutscenes and midway levels. The neon ambiance and high contrast, well, everything really does make you feel like you're a crazy gunman. Like this is what she sees after all the mental and physical trauma she passed through. Soundtrack is very specific. If you ask me to hum any single track from the game, I couldn't do it. No single part of it is memorable or distinct enough. Yet, when put together, they form a reflection of a certain state of mind again. Closest game I remember with the same effect was Hotline Miami, although there was more pronounced and tracks had individuality. Think the hospital level from Hotline Miami. The tandem of music that I honestly can't call enjoyable and fairly sluggish gameplay make you feel like you got shot in the head. Same here, it's like funk but made by a crazy person. If I had to use one word to describe the music in this game, I'd say drowning. All in all, it's not groundbreaking or unique, but it is sufficient and effective. There isn't a single line of audible dialogue in here. Not that the game needs it anyway. It's very efficient in its introductions and storytelling as is. Some guy cancels his life subscription by Cobaining himself into the afterlife in front of the young lady, a daughter I think, doesn't matter. And she goes on a trip down Revenge Alley, although it's more like Revenge Hillbilly County. She gets a rifle, and you get to experience what true psychopathy looks like. The game teaches you in 5 seconds what took James McAvoy half a movie to learn and Wanted. How to curve a bullet, or ricochet in this case, and you're off to kill. Aside from a very colorful cutscene in the beginning, first few levels introduce you to mechanics of the game, or should I say ballistics. When you hit your target, doesn't matter where or how, you get to redirect the bullet to whatever angle you'd like. You see our protagonist ain't no commando. One mission, one bullet. You can almost call this game a puzzle, but to be honest it doesn't require much thoughtful deliberation, more like trial and error than anything. The game can be challenging, although such levels are few and far between. But gameplay is satisfying enough, like some kind of perverted domino. The game primarily consists of two types of levels. First is a puzzle shooter, normal level where you get a set amount of targets and a bullet. And the second one is a breaker gimmick level. Those are meant to be a tiny bits of gameplay that is different yet tonally similar, like hunt your breakfast, clean your rifle, get stab baptized, and so on. These help to flesh out the world a bit better and allow you to get a breather between the levels, and they usually are placed after or before a challenge of sorts. So you start picking up speed, and in no time discover a new ability, curvature. This allows you to actually bend the trajectory of the shot by a narrow degree, around 45 or so. This is self-explanatory, really, but twisting around an object hitting cultists in the knock is very satisfying, especially when there are more than one enemy in the group. Looking at the pan-shitting culty running away is just priceless. Oh, here's the first super fun level, an old home. Here you have a wide area, bunch of space, your Rika shots are starting to gain distance, the enemy count is bigger to the point where I have to use markers to know where all enemies are for the first time. This also marks a send-off to a shift in scenery. The place lights up a bit more and it doesn't get any less creepy with more lighting. This shift further develops in few next maps. Up to this point, there was no obvious supernatural presence. Yeah, the hero of the story possesses some kind of telekinesis, but now shit gets less and less grounded, like literally, flying cars appear out of nowhere, and general vibe gets more mysterious. After cleaning the rifle, apparently our heroine gets a bump in the power department yet again, with the power of mid-air redirection. Regular grunts have weak points, hitting them fills your redirection scale. You need 2 weak point hits to get a single use of a power. The level we get as an introduction for the power is bland though, even with a new enemy, the shield guy. Oh, here's another level that I like. I found it engaging, not really challenging, but shooting a gas tank of a moving vehicle when it drives by more people to kill 3 in a single collision is so good I can taste dopamine hitting my brain in all the right places. I'm skipping a lot since I don't want you to miss on the experience, but by this point you're kinda half done. This game is fairly short, it only took me like 4 hours on my first playthrough, this one taking a little over a half of that. This is also the point where you unlock your last power, a power to speed up bullet, used specifically to ragdoll these reinforced bastards. Now you get to Main Street, and scenery continues to deteriorate. Cool and tough level though, reminds me of Call of Juarez games with the old western street vibe, and the placements of reinforced dudes makes you think on when to use the redirection power. Cool level. Another few levels pass and we get to chasing lives. When I think of this game, I think about 2 things. The cutscenes that are 5 frames per second and yet manage to engage and deliver the story in an efficient manner that is still open to interpretation, and this exact level, the road chase level. This is the best one in the game, in my opinion anyway, and one of the levels where you have full free agency over the way you complete the level. Every enemy is in a car, so just shoot the gas tanks, or better yet, shoot every driver, or even better, bullets fly faster than cars ride, so just speed up past them and go in the reverse order, hitting the first ones first. You get to use your arsenal in a way you like, and it's fun and very dynamic. But before we get to the end, let's take a minute and look at the story. If you want to avoid spoilers, go to here. Okay, so we start the game outside the cabin, smeared with the thought juice of the dad of our protagonist. Now, she doesn't have a name, but I feel like calling her Fifi. I don't know why, she just feels like Fifi to me. This is actually a middle of the story, and we are fed flashbacks along the way via cutscenes, writings, and environmental storytelling. So, Children of the Sun is a cult, obviously. It all starts when Fifi's mom gets a pamphlet of a community Children of the Sun. They all get there, live for a while, and then big bad evil guy of this campaign says, "Let me smash your subscription button," and takes away Fifi's mom, who as we see later is extremely pregnant. And Daddy Cook doesn't appreciate that a bit, but seeing as how they are cold and everything, he just swallows his pride and all, and they continue living now separately. You'd think the dad is the reason why shit hit the fan, but no, Fifi is magic and gets her telekinesis or yandu whistling skills or a stand, I don't know. Point is, when she shows her powers, the pop ain't the only one who watches around the corner this time. The girl from a cold is there and she snitches to a big bad, which shouldn't be a problem, but the boy over here saw a vision of Fifi replacing him as a leader. So he plans a public execution instead. Papa Cug decides that he wants to participate for once and gets kneecapped instantly, which spikes 100% meter in the Fifi's head, so she starts yelled rippeth and teareth. That didn't last long since they are surrounded, and if it weren't for Fifi's mom who catches a center mass slug for her family while tearing the face off of Big Bad's head, they'd be dead on the spot. Instead, they are imprisoned and set on fire. Dad loses his walking skills and Fifi wastes guards while making her some new drip. They escape. Dad, mortified that he didn't get a piece of that action, decides to ventilate his brain, and Fifi is on the quest to shut down every single cult spot this side of the Mississippi, with the end goal of killing the bastard and everyone associated with him. So she tracks him across the mountain pass, and you get to kill the bastard at the very end. But that's not it. When she does, the very same person who ratted her out to the previous leader makes Fifi a new leader. And the story ends. Roll the credits. So really a simple story. What matters is small details. I've never been in a cult myself, God bless, but there are things that are very on point here. Stuff like signs of the eye and a sun everywhere, icons and pamphlets, that's just decoration. But a few elements took it from yeah, cult whatever, to the realm of possibility of could this actually be real? For instance, this phrase during a baptism scene, "You drugged me with kindness." That refers to a common technique used by cult members in real life called love bombing, where whenever anyone attempts to leave, they are surrounded by physical and emotional extortion of sorts. They hug and embrace you, mimic your reactions, while saying things like, "No one will love you like we love you here, this is safe, outside is not." Meanwhile, they take away your agency, take away your personality. You lose the ability to be alone. You need to be with someone to know whether you are correct in your assumptions and perception. Another thing is this: join or get out. This is called commitment enforcement. Pick any group activity that you want and you will find so-called partial involvement, meaning that you can skip or not participate at all if you so desire. Cults don't work off of free will, so they enforce a very polarizing structure of you're either a believer or an enemy. Two things happen here. One is sunken cost fallacy, meaning the more you've given to the cult, the harder it is to quit actually. And two is calling of non-loyalists among the members. This polarization creates a feedback loop where members sustain delusions through a vicious cycle of reinforcement through conformity. They make you an ultimatum like, leave or do something proving, or even worse with something like, "I'm sorry, but you will lose your platinum status and go back to golden status if insert bullshit challenge here will not be completed." This is not it, and I believe if you wish to dig further, you will find a bunch of references and or parallels to reality. That's just something that I noticed. Why is it important? Well, imagine a game like Cultic, for example, where you see all the crazy gunmen cultists and you kinda have to suspend your disbelief and disregard the fact that it's obvious fiction. Here, the cult is done very subtly, very nuanced. Like all the puzzle pieces were taken from the real life, and I won't be surprised if suddenly René Rother uncovers that he used an actual cult as an inspiration. So yeah, depiction of the cult is spot on, environmental storytelling is very strong, and the story itself, well, let's put it at interesting since it does show a bulk of trauma cultists pass through. Okay, back to last levels. So penultimate level is actually pretty hard, on account of the fact that some targets are stashed behind rubble and to really inconveniently place force field assholes. Oh, I guess I never mentioned them. Force field floaters deflect your shot. Once deflected, you have a narrow window to shoot them normally. So you either have to have a redirection ready or a target for a bounce back in mind. Anyway, penultimate level. It's rightfully placed here at top 2 most difficult levels out there. And here's the solution. Flatline the armored guy, graze a force field, pass by, hit a gas tank, return, smash floater's brain, go back, shoot this guy in the head, second armored dude, graze second field, redirect floater, shoveling guy, gas tank behind a shield guy himself, go back down for a sitting armored douche, up, redirect, kill the last one, easy. Last level. The heat is on. 17 targets, 2 super force fields, and a big wide map. At first I didn't like this one because I thought it's too linear, since you can't even approach the map from the right side. But actually it's not only possible but beneficial to do so I'm back to liking it. The permanent force fields get disabled if you kill everyone outside the field, and that's a fun concept and I wish it was expanded on in previous levels, like an enemy with a permanent impenetrable field, but it does work as a finishing boss gimmick. And that's it. 17 enemies later, you shoot the big bad and see this. This is a passion project, that much is clear. The game made with one goal in mind, and that is to engage you. Take one evening of your life to make you feel something abnormal, something unusual. There's a debate among people if games should be considered art. Some say that art is not always fun and games are, but I have a bunch of examples where games are not fun in some parts, but it enhances the experience, like Calling of Stratholme from Warcraft 3, like an entire game loop of pathologic, like an ice scene from Dead Space. Here someone might think that gameplay is linear, the breaker levels waste your time, but I think that any repetition or sluggishness that game has helps a lot with the atmosphere. It really does feel like you're along on a ride inside of the mind of a crazy person who went through a lot of abuse. It's an art piece, undeniably so, and it is a great game because of it. So if you have an empty evening and $8, buy it, have a blast. See you next time in The Angry Voodoo Man Time Travels to Kill Evil.